Hello and welcome back to Doing the Most with me, Cynthia Mallard. I have to tell you, I am overjoyed that you have decided to just rejoin me, right? For the best show in the land. Nowhere else are you going to get this type of upliftment, of motivation, inspiration, and education. Hence, we are doing the most with what we have at this moment. At this time, we are not going to waste what we have been afforded. So, without further ado, we have our very own, the very own um, Dr. Sabrina Clark, who is one of the most foremost pediatricians in the state of Georgia, who is joining Doing the Most with Cynthia Mallard today. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark, for being here. Honestly, I was telling her off the air that I did not feel like we were going to actually be able to get Dr. Clark because you can imagine any doctor, right? And much less a pediatrician. It is so hard to lock them down, and we got her right on the most uplifting, the most motivational show that you will come across in your life. We are starting Black History Month. And of course, we always bring you amazing, amazing guests who I feel like you should know about, right? People who are doing the most. Hence, doing the most. So, Dr. Clark, how are you doing? I'll start there. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, it's a new year, making new goals and taking it one day at a time. That's all I can do. But I'm doing
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. Well, you look so beautiful.
Thank
As I
you.
introduced you earlier, you are, and I hope help me to pronounce this correctly, osteopathic medicine. Now, I introduced you as a pediatrician. Tell us exactly, what your study is.
So I'm a general pediatrician, and I do primary care. So basically seeing children daily as they're growing from newborn stage to young adulthood. I see them throughout for their well checkups, and I do, see them for sick visits as well or problem visits. So I build relationships with parents. I empower them as they raise their children and help, maintain and facilitate their overall health throughout their growing stages. So that's
Awesome. I do.
today.
Oh my goodness. Amazing, amazing. So let me ask you, like I said, it's not often that we see our black and our brown doctors. Can I ask you, do people just kind of stop you like when they come to see you, like parents of the children, and they say, it's so good to see an African American woman. Do you get that ever?
I get that a lot. I definitely get that a lot, especially being practicing in North Georgia, where, I would say it's not going to be as diverse like the inner city. So I feel like there are a lot of families who, when they do see that their provider, is African American or looks like them, I think their eyes kind of light up and they get excited because, I can relate to them on a different level than other providers might not be able to, and I think that that brings them some comfort and it makes them feel more comfortable with their child's care, knowing that it's someone that they can relate to on different levels.
I have to say that Dr. Clark, everyone who I've spoken to about you, you are, like I said, you are on the who's list of amazing doctors who parents really run to, who parents really trust with their children. And I will tell you, I am one of those parents, that, you have taken amazing care. Guys, look, first person testimony. Dr. Clark, you are amazing. And then
Thank
I think when I
you.
first brought the children there, you just go out and you choose a pediatrician. I
Mhm.
didn't know I didn't know family that I had like the top five doctor in the state of Georgia, who is with Wellstar. Am I correct?
Yes. So yeah, I work for Wellstar.
How long have you been with Wellstar?
I've been with Wellstar since 2019. So
Absolutely.
years. it's going on. So we're in 2023 now. So almost 4 years.
Wow, wow. I have to ask you, how did you end up in the medical profession? We hear so much about how difficult it is, just to make it through the process. Just give us just a little bit of that backstory, how you arrived to be Dr. Sabrina Clark.
Well, it is a long process. But I feel like I had tunnel vision from a young age. I wanted to be a doctor probably since early high school. I always loved the medical field. My mom was in the medical field, and I knew I wanted to do something in medicine. And my mom was a nurse, and so I was always like, well, I want to make the decision. So, in my mind at that time, I was like, okay, the doctor makes the decisions. And so that's how I kind of like started to say, well, I know I want to be in the medical field and I know I want to be like a leader and make decisions. So I said, I want to be a doctor.
Mm,
And then in high school, I met a teacher, one of my science teachers who really just, she influenced me and she took me under her wing. She actually was in school to be a dentist and then decided to take a different route and become a teacher because she
mm,
started a family. And at that time, felt like, she wanted to focus on her family. And so I think she kind of was living vicariously through me, seeing that I was doing well in the sciences and how I
mm,
always talk about how I wanted to be a doctor. And so it really started there for me with her. And so I started to do some shadowing doctors, in my community, and just really honing in what type of medicine I wanted to do. But
mm.
from there, I was like tunnel vision. I knew I had to go to college. I knew from college I needed to go to medical school. So I just went straight through the whole process. I never took any breaks.
Wow. Was it easy for you? I gotta ask you, what was your experience?
It definitely was difficult.
Mm,
I think that I grew up in the inner city, and I was in grew up in Philadelphia, and I went through the Philadelphia public school system. So I think just growing up in the inner city, going to a public school, you just have to work a lot harder to get to the places you need to get to in order to succeed and
mm,
go through such a vigorous journey like becoming a doctor.
mm,
So it definitely was difficult. I dealt with some family losses, like some family members that I lost through along the way, through from health issues and illness. And so that kind of took a toll on me, but I just continued through the process. So it was a lot of hurdles and things to overcome throughout the process. But I try to take everything one day at a time. That's all you can do. If you focus on everything at once, you get overwhelmed. But if you kind of break things up into smaller pieces and just focus on the now, I feel like it makes it much easier to kind of get through the steps. So that's what I did, but it definitely was difficult.
wonderful. Well, I did do a little perusing, of course. And for all of my folks, for all my family who is watching, like again, we are talking with the amazing medical doctor, Sabrina Clark. With Wellstar Medical System here in the state of Georgia. We are happy to have her. I gotta say also, there's an amazing connection in your education and downtown Atlanta, right? As far as your education, you have to tell us that.
Yes. So, whenever you become a doctor, you have to do residency training, which is like basically like clinical clerkships. You're actually working in the field that you want to practice in, and you're working under what's called attendings, who are doctors who have gone through residency and can practice on their own. And so I did my residency training at Morehouse School of Medicine. And so that's what brought me to Atlanta because I'm from Philadelphia and I did all my schooling up there, but I got into the residency program here in Morehouse, and that's what brought me down here. And I kind of been in this area sort of ever since. So yeah, so Atlanta
Wow,
was
wow,
great.
wow. I can imagine. I hold for one moment. Okay, so we have you look, we all know we have children in the house. There is something that they will do, right? You'll tell them
Yes.
one thing to do and then they won't do it. And so that kind of segues me to you're a pediatrician, you could have been, a doctor of anything. How did you get wrapped up with children? Of course we're thankful for it, but how did you go along that path?
Well, for the longest, I thought I was gonna go into OB-GYN because I was like, I want to deliver babies. I want to help women and deliver babies. That was like the thing I wanted to do. And when I got to medical school, we have to do a month of clerkship in all of the specialties so you can kind of really see what it's actually like.
Mm.
And when I got to OB-GYN, I liked it, but I was, once the babies were delivered, I'm like more concerned with the baby. And I'm like, I want to go examine the baby. I want to, see the baby. But at that point, you're the mom's doctor, right? So the baby then goes on to be the pediatrician's patient. And so I had an aha moment. I was like, you know what? I think I'm actually interested in pediatrics and not, necessarily OB-GYN. I loved OB-GYN, but I really felt drawn to taking care of children. And I learned that through that experience. And so from then on, I said, let me do some more months of pediatrics and really see if this is what I wanted to do. And I just loved it. I loved being able to watch children from newborn stage growing and developing over time and turning into young adults. And I loved getting to build relationships with parents and basically becoming a part of the family,
Wow.
watching the kids grow. And so that brought me a lot of joy. And that's how I solidified, wanting to go into pediatrics.
We all have had, encounters with, with you, your primary doctors, the doctors you had like when you were growing up, with your
Hmm.
parents, myself also. And sometimes, and I'll just put it out there, sometimes doctors, they're giving you, what's best for you, but they don't always bring out, sometimes you never see the human in them. Sometimes you never see that part of them. And it's so wonderful with you, Dr. Clark. Every visit, even social media, that's one thing I really love. I love about you, and I've heard your colleagues talk about. Not only are like you a professional, but like it's so amazing that you understand that we are humans.
Right. Definitely. We I'm a person just like, my patients and their parents, and we all go through a lot of the same things. And, I try to, use that in practice. I feel like sometimes at the doctor, it can be a lot of like, you got to do this, this, and this. And that's not, real life, and we all have to have grace and we all have to give each other grace. And there's not always a right or wrong way of doing something, even when it comes to raising your kids. And parents are always asking me, like, how do I feed my baby? And I'm like, there's a million ways to feed your baby. So I, try to tell them, just relax, and you don't have to. It's not rocket science. There's no real wrong or right way of doing it. It's just what works best for you. And
Mm.
so I think that that's part of what helps me to, let my patients know that I'm, a human just like them. I'm a person, and I'm not just a robot here to, tell them what to do with their child. I really like to facilitate and educate them so they can make the best decision for them and for their child. So I really like to just empower and facilitate that process as opposed to, go in there and just tell parents what they should do with their kid. And I think that really helps me.
Absolutely. I heard you earlier when you were talking about, of course, you were basically saying, life happens. We kind of use it, life happens, things happen. Um,
Hmm.
I can imagine, and if you don't mind sharing, I know, think about maybe some challenges, like some challenges that you don't mind sharing with us here on doing the most, that kind of almost, stopped you in your tracks.
Well, definitely. One of the big things when I was in residency, and residency is very vigorous. You have long hours. You're working nights, you're working days. But when I was a resident, I just got off a night shift and I got a call from my grandmother that my aunt had just passed away suddenly.
Mm.
And it just rocked my whole world. And I had to be up, back to work in about 8 hours after finding that out. And, that was one of the toughest things because I wanted to just drop everything and fly home. And I was here. I wasn't back in Philadelphia. So I was away from my family. And I just got this, terrible news. And I was so close to my aunt. She was like a second mother. And, I had to pull myself together,
Mm.
and go to work because if I didn't show up for work, that meant one of my colleagues had to cover for me. And then that, interferes with their whole day and whatever they
Right.
have going on. And so it really took everything in me to just, you know, put my emotions to the side and prepare my mind to not just to go to work, but I have to have a, level head and be able to think and make decisions in regards to patient health during that time. So that was
Mm.
really, really difficult for me. But, going through that prepared me for, future situations like that because we're always going to go through things. I'm not always going to be in my best, mindset. I might be going through something, I might be dealing with a family issue, but at the end of the day, I still have to do a service and take care of my patients. And so that really kind of taught me, how to work through those emotions and kind of, put them on, not in the back burner, but to the
Mm.
side so that I could, perform my job and do it to the best of my ability. So that's one, I would say, really pivotal thing that I went through that
Mm.
really kinda helped shape me as a professional.
Wow. When we just like I said, as regular, like we are going through those emotions, right? You're going through
Mhm.
challenging times. What's your best advice? Like what do you tell, patients? Because I can imagine you hear everything, not just, related to the children, other things also.
Yeah, I think, you know, I like to I'm big on, like, you can only focus on right now, Yeah, you wanna think about the future, but sometimes when you think about everything all at once, you just get overwhelmed, and so I like to talk to my patients and parents about, you can only you take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and I'm always, encouraging them to break, bigger goals into smaller goals. I
Mm.
like kind of taking something big and kind of
Yeah.
breaking it down
Yeah.
into smaller pieces that are more obtainable, easier to kind of conceptualize and get done as opposed to, trying to do everything at once. So like a lot of times when I'm dealing with patients who might have weight issue, I tell them, you can't just change everything about how you're eating and how your your activity in one day, right? So I tell
Right.
them, let's pick one goal and focus on that this week, and then next week you can pick a new goal, and over time all of those small goals will add up to a lifestyle change. And so I'm a big believer in just breaking things down into smaller smaller tasks.
That's
And so
amazing.
I think it really
It's so interesting that you talked about, consulting patients about weight because I understand like you have a specialty in weight loss. Is that correct? Or
well, I have not necessarily a specialty, but I have an interest in childhood obesity. And so I like to, address that with my patients if that's something that they're dealing with. And I like to follow them over time to make sure we're, meeting the goals that we set for them. And so that's one of the areas that I'm passionate about.
so, what have you found? I can imagine for childhood obesity, where does it come from? Why does it exist? I mean, what is it, what's your professional.
Well, I think that, I could only really speak for here in the United States. I think that as a country as a whole, we're, not the best eaters and we're not the most active people. And I think because that's kind of our environment, kids, they only know what they see and what they learn and what they can, pick up from their environment. And so if that's their environment, they're going to be more likely to be affected by that aspect of things. And so I think it's more of on a country level, just how we live in general. We have easy accessibility to lots of unhealthy foods. I mean, there's fast food on every corner. And
Yum
then in
yum. Look, yum yum.
my and then, it's difficult and expensive to eat healthy. It is. And not everybody can afford it. Not everybody has access to it. And so I think um, it's not, all on the people. I think it's a, system thing too. It's just kind
Mm,
of, you know, the way that our country is, and there's not a lot of emphasis on healthy eating as much as it is in like other places. And so that's why I think it's a big issue here. And
mm,
so I am passionate about trying to instill healthy lifestyles in my patients so that as they grow, they kind of just continue to live that lifestyle despite kind of the noise around them
yeah.
that might be kind of influencing them to do otherwise. So I think it's something that we all need to work on, as a country, and it's going to take time. Nothing happens overnight, and, we didn't get this way overnight. And so it's definitely not going to happen overnight for us to fix it. But I'm passionate about at least trying to do what I can to help fix it.
Wonderful. If you are just joining us, we are speaking with the amazing medical doctor, Sabrina Clark. She is amazing and just so happy that we were able to have her here on Doing the Most with me, Cynthia Mallard. We talk about doing the most, doing the most. Are you doing the most with the time that you have here on this earth? And yeah, I can say as far as myself and those around here, the state of Georgia. Now you've been on the show, Dr. Clark, around the world. We can see that you are absolutely doing the most, and you are doing it unapologetically. Like sometimes we kind of get caught up, right? Sometimes people can
Hmm.
get caught up and you're thinking about what people are saying. What will they think? you
Hmm.
know Someone talks about me or they disagree with me. You haven't let that stop you at all.
No, if I let any of that affect me, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. When I was growing up, and there was a lot of people like, "You're not going to be a doctor," because
Mm,
they didn't see other people like us, in my neighborhood and things. It just was like it was almost like unheard of. And so there was a lot of like, what are you thinking? Like, you can't do that. Even when I got to college, like one of my advisors told me, like, maybe you should pick another,
mm,
field or another specialty. So throughout this whole process of being getting to where I am, I feel like there was always people saying, you can't do it, or you should do something different, or, you're not good enough. And I didn't let any of that kind of affect my decision making. And I just said, I'm gonna prove you guys wrong, and I just kept going, and I went to a pretty vigorous pre-medical program in college. And, looking back at all the other students who I was in the program with, there were a lot of people who looked like me who didn't make it through, to the point where at the end of the program, when I was graduating, I was the only, African American student who successfully went through the pre-medical program and matriculated into medical school. And so it was tough seeing everybody else kind of fall by the wayside during that process. And I started to have some self-doubt as well because of that. You start, you see other people like you who aren't able to do the work, and it's like, well, why, how am I able to do the work? When am I gonna, fall by the wayside? But I just, toughed it out, and I just told myself, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I set this goal and I'm going to accomplish it. That's just the end of it, period. That's what's going to happen.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Like I said, and I think our audience can agree, you are doing the most, Dr. Clark, with what you have. And we
Yes.
absolutely love that. So like I said, I know, honestly, guys, she carved this time out on the time that she is off. So a doctor's schedule is really, really crazy. So she kind of carved this out for us, and then she's off to her job, right? But I just want to say, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Clark is a newlywed. We wanted to say congratulations to you. So you work as hard as you work. and he found the time to actually get married. She's also an influencer. So I just want to say for our last few minutes, I know what we agreed upon. Give us, do you take clients? Do you take patients? Give us that information if we're looking for the amazing Dr. Sabrina Clark. What's that process like?
So I work for Wellstar, and so I'm in the Kennesaw area, and I am accepting new patients. I'm at Kenmar Pediatrics, and so we have 3 locations. I work primarily at the Marietta location, which is at 760 Kennesaw Avenue Northwest. And so I see patients there on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. And now I'm seeing patients in our Ackworth location, which is at the Wellstar Ackworth Health Park on Cobb Parkway, and I see patients there on Wednesdays. And I'm available. I'm taking new patients, newborn up to teenage years, and I'd be happy to get some more patients, and start building more new relationships with new families. I also, like you said, I'm an influencer. I have like a plus size fashion blog called The Bree Spot, and I also have my own stationery company that I make stickers and planner supplies, and that's called Create with Bree. And so got dibbling and dabbling in lots of little things,
All while you're saving everyone's lives medically.
Yes, trying to save
And
lives.
speaking at the conferences and being at the forefront of the medical community.
Just overachieving here. But I just
Absolutely.
like to make sure I'm, doing all the things that I'm passionate about, and just doing what I can. We only have one life to live, and we gotta live it to the fullest. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I think I'm taking that with me. I love, love, love. We have one life, right? One
That's
life.
it.
And you got to, I always say this, you got to ride this life, okay, till the wheels fall off.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Clark, I just have one thing to say to you. Dr. Clark, you are doing the most going.
Thank you.
Now we come to the part in the show, doing the most in action. I absolutely love this segment, and I hope you do too. Today is doing the most in action. All I need you guys to say is, I love myself. Again, listen to it. I love myself. We've got to get into the habit of telling ourselves that we love ourselves. What does that mean, Cynthia? Well, if I say, I love my hair, I love my eyes, I love my body, right? If I get into the habit of saying those things, it goes into your brain. You start thinking it. Every day you're waking up, you're saying, I love myself. I love my skin. I love my hair. I love my ears, right? That way, when things that are not aligned with loving you, you won't tolerate them. So, doing the most in action, it's about love today. I love myself. I love my brain. I love my children. I love maybe my husband. I love my school. I love who I represent in life. Say it over and over and over again. Reason why? You say, why, Cynthia? Because when you love yourself, when you truly, truly love yourself, you never ever tolerate things that go against that grain. You won't let things into your circle that reeks of hate, that does not align with you loving yourself. I love myself. Say it with me. I love myself. I love what I am doing. Okay? Try it. Let me know how it works out. Until next time, always, always do the most. Don't forget, you can find me, you can find Doing the Most on all social platforms at Doing the Most with Cynthia Mallard, okay? Don't forget, you can email me at doingthemostlife@gmail. And of course, you can reach me, Cynthia Mallard, also across all social platforms. Listen, I love you. And as I always say, we are so fortunate to live in this world at this time, at this moment. You are so fortunate. We are so fortunate to be who we are. And all I want you to do is do the most. Do the absolute most. Until next time.